Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Rocking Midlife Podcast. And I am really excited today because I have a special guest with me who is a great friend, and I'd like to welcome Di. Welcome, Di.
Hi there, everyone. Thank you, Kat. It's lovely to be here.
This is cool. Di actually has the best sense of humor, and we've often been the naughty girls sitting up the back of the speakers, the Professional Speakers Association. Yes, we'll keep that quiet, but we have a good laugh together. But I'm just going to read a little bit of Di's bio, and then we'll take it from there. So Di has a company called SpeechMarks Coaching. And basically, Di is a woman's speaking coach. She helps women find their voice and be heard. And Di believes that every woman deserves the confidence to speak up in everything from meetings to conference keynotes. Di helps them through one-to-one coaching, through workshops and courses, and She Says So, which is a wonderful speaking group a community that she actually runs alongside another fantastic speaker named Kath Vincent. So Di, it's fabulous to have you here today.
Thank you for that warm welcome.
Yeah, so you're a speaking coach. What is a speaking coach? Tell us in a nutshell what it is and why do women need one? Throw you straight in there, hey?
That's bigger than a nut. So first part of that question, speaking coach is, well, the way I run my business is that I offer a variety of different ways to improve your speaking. Some people need one-on-one coaching, whether it's because they've got some issues at work, they're not speaking up, they're nervous, or they've got a specific presentation. Most of the time people come to me for a specific presentation they've got coming up. They need help with the structure, the content, the delivery, and even the PowerPoint slides I help with, although I'm not a PowerPoint expert. And then there's also workshops that we run, 1-2 day workshops, where you're with other people, and of course you will get up and speak impromptu, or maybe something that's slightly pre-written, and have an audience and get some feedback. The reason, to second part of your question, why I became the self-appointed, I might add, women's public speaking
but very
coach,
good at it.
was because I saw a niche in the market. So in business, they tell you about niching, and then even niching your niche and distinguishing yourself from other people and all that sort of stuff. But it was a combination of there being a gap, but also there being a great need, because I could see these women in business that I was meeting through my networking groups and through meeting other businesswomen that were great at what they did, whether it be an accountant, a lawyer, or an entrepreneur that's maybe newer into business. They were good at doing the business, but they weren't so great about talking about the business.
Right. So speaking is really kind of a skill that's not part of the usual package that someone takes to a workplace, do they? So they might get they might get employed due to like you said, being a great accountant, or they know software really well, or they're an engineer or whatever. But speaking's kind of something that's people aren't prepared for when they do their business teaching and degrees and things, are they?
It does still seem to be quite lacking, certainly in the New Zealand context. Many people say that, that's one of the great things about the American public school system and their university system. They have put a stronger emphasis on speaking. I don't know, watching my kids come up through school, they've got a bit of exposure to it. But the key thing to understand here is that as you're moving up, say, management levels, your technical skills become less important than your soft skills.
Yeah.
And obviously that gets catapulted if you become an entrepreneur or own your own business, because all of a sudden you are that CEO, you are that general manager. So your soft skills become far more important. Proportionally to your success, and the most important group of those, of course, is communication, because
very much so.
It's the umbrella, right? The thing is, of course, you can't inspire your team with a pithy email.
No, that's true.
You're going to inspire them by standing up, usually, and talking to them.
Yeah.
And conveying a confidence where they go, yes, I trust you. I'll do that. Or, wow, I actually want to work a bit harder for this person because they are so passionate about what they do. So
Wow.
it's really important to have that skill set.
Yeah, yeah. And you're right. Well, now I'm thinking about it, as people move up that corporate ladder, it is more, it's about leadership, isn't it? And part of leadership is being able to communicate clearly so that people will want to follow what you're asking them to follow. So yeah, so let's break it down a bit further. You are saying then that anyone can learn how to speak?
Title of my book, nice product placement.
Yes.
Anyone can speak confidently.
There we have it. There we have it.
Yes. Yeah, and it's a bold claim.
Yeah.
It's a claim based on my own experience, but also all the people I've helped over the years. Before I even started my business, I was attending a Toastmasters club when I was living in Singapore every single week, and I would see these people shaking like leaves.
Yeah.
First sort of maiden speech, and slowly watch them over months get more comfortable and therefore more confident. And in my own She Says So group, a number of the women have said, one just a month or so ago, that she said, my friends have noticed that I'm far more confident, even just around them. You know, at work, I'm more confident about putting forward my opinions, putting forward my recommendations. But it's so nice to also have my friends notice that this is making a difference.
Actually, that's really lovely. Yeah, that's really cool, isn't it? Because you're not just teaching them a skill over here, you're actually empowering them in so many other areas of their lives. Do you find that women have a fear still of speaking up, of wanting to get their voices heard? Or is it more just the fact they're scared? Or what have you found?
It's sometimes they're not even consciously aware of it.
Yeah.
So some women do approach me. I've had a young engineer that I've been working with, and she just said, look, I'm just not getting across my recommendations. I'm just too nervous. I'm not, and so we worked through a process around that, because she's very clever. And she it's partly it's an age and stage thing. Sometimes they're not even aware of the things that have sort of been culturally ingrained. And when I say that, I don't mean because, you know, they're from a different country necessarily, just because some of those messages have sort of sunk in at some stage, and they've been a good girl and kept quiet and not disturbed, or they don't want to come across as being opinionated and bossy. So we work through those sorts of things as well. And yeah, it depends on the person, but I think overall women around the world, but particularly in New Zealand, are starting to see that there is a gap, and that they need to be able to take action to speak up in their business or even in their community. You know, a lot of people join things like Rotary, or the women's partners version of Rotary,
Probus, or all the different clubs,
Probus, and different clubs. I know, like my mother and her stage in life, she's in the gardening club and the travel club, but they don't actually they want to join the club, but they wouldn't actually want to do a presentation or front a sale table at a fair or do the other things because they're just too nervous and scared.
Which is really sad, isn't it? Because these women have so much wisdom and so much knowledge and so much experience. So they need to, have that confidence to be able to speak that out and speak to people. Wow. I've got so many questions going on in my brain here. I literally just flipped 3 through. Let's talk about stage fright, because you mentioned that already. So many women are actually nervous about getting up there. Now, as you know, I used to be a professional musician, and I played on stages for a good 25 plus years. But I remember when I started out, I was on a music scholarship in high school. I was a basket case. Every time I had to play for an exam, I came out of it in tears. My legs would shake. I remember singing one day a Latin mass from by Vivaldi, and my leg just started shaking. I couldn't stop it. I was so scared. And it took many years of continually putting myself in that position that now I can stand in front of a bunch of women or a bunch of people, and it actually doesn't faze me. I'm more concerned about, will I remember the content or not? The actual getting up and talking doesn't worry me anymore. How do you get that? How do women get from A to B if they're coming in as adults who are experts in their field but need to learn to talk? How do you get them through the stage fright nice and quickly?
So I always feel like it's in two parts. The first part is the what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on this might happen, I might. So Kath Vincent calls it the mighty mights, all those mights that probably won't happen. And so that's that positive mindset of this is what it's going to sound like, this is what it's going to look like. There's the mental preparation and also the time preparation. So just being able to know that you know your content in a way that you can pick it up. You know, you can be interrupted, you can have a noise, you can have someone walk in, you can just keep going regardless because you've rehearsed it enough.
Yeah.
I put out a blog recently on my website that said, write less, rehearse more.
That's cool.
You know,
yeah.
Just, like we spend so much time on writing a speech or a presentation, we actually run out of time to rehearse it. And it's actually the rehearsal that's the important bit.
Yes.
So that's one side of it. The other side of it is more of a long-term approach of practicing. And people say, well, I don't speak that much. This is a one-off. And that's the theme of my book, is that actually public speaking is not a one-off. You're doing it in some form or another, probably every day, particularly if you work in an office. You're in meetings using public speaking skills. You go and talk to two people in that team. You can still practice some skills, rehearse over a line, figure out how you want to deliver it. You can practice and do little mini practices of these things every day, so that when they say, look, we can't see you, can you stand up to tell us about that? You don't go, oh no, now I'm suddenly public speaking. Oh, yuck. Oh, panic.
Yeah.
You just relax. Oh, sure, I don't care. Better still stand up every opportunity you can to speak. So it starts to become more natural, because that's the problem, particularly since 2020, and we've lost a lot of one-on-one contact. We're sat behind the screens. We need to be able to be re-exposing ourselves to this concept of public speaking. So we reframe ourselves, we consciously practice it. So that it doesn't become something we just do every now and then, or couldn't possibly do because we've never do it.
Yeah. I really love that. I think that's great. So first of all, it's like that demystifying it, isn't it? Speaking doesn't have to happen on a stage. I mean, we're public speaking now. Even though there's two of us, we know that there's an audience that'll be listening to it. Like you said, speaking can be anywhere in the office environment, anywhere where you're communicating and eliciting a response from the other person, be it instructions, be it sharing, be it a story, be it whatever. And I think that's a brilliant way of breaking it down, so that women aren't then fearful of, I'll have to speak. Well, actually, honey, you've already spoken this week 5 times if we count it up. And it takes a bit of the fear out of it, takes a bit of it stops it being such a big, massive mountain that you've got to climb, doesn't it? As in, well, actually, I've already done 5 this week.
Yes, and the reason that's important is because when you come to something that's higher stake, more important, client pitch, some sort of event, you've got the sort of all the background and all that knowledge to know, I did well there, I did okay there, I could decided I'm going to improve on that. You've got this sort of big wad of experience that you now value, regardless of whatever, and actually you think, you know what, I can do this. Okay, I'm going to allocate my time a bit more. I'm going to write less, rehearse more.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do things, which is one of my top tips. I keep saying, memorizing my message, not my exact words.
Yeah.
So you've got this sort of good, solid foundation that you've built up over time, that you can now, reach that pinnacle, whether it just be standing up to present at an AGM or a one-off event that you've been asked to be involved in.
Yeah, that's great. It reminds me, like this, you're going to think this analogy is funny, but you could read all the theory about learning to swim, can't you? You could read all the books, you can watch the videos, you can learn everything about how to swim, and then get in the water and be absolutely clueless and not know what to do because you haven't actually done it. And that's really what speaking is, isn't it? You could read Di's book. I mean, Di's book is a brilliant place to start. Let me tell you, I've actually was one of her proofreaders, and it is a brilliant read. But at some point, you actually have to take the information and just simply do it.
Apply it.
Yes. You get better through the doing with speaking, don't you?
But the thing is, with speaking, is that most of us are speaking every day.
Yes.
Therefore, we can put it into practice. We can practice elements of it every day. People say, like my children aren't confident at answering questions. Well, maybe at the dinner table we're going to have an answering question session where each child or member of the family, I should say, is actually answers one question, and you all practice answering questions in a really complete, full manner. That's one of the biggest benefits I got from Toastmasters, and one of the things we've adopted into She Says So course and as well is that this impromptu answering of questions can make or break you.
Yes.
And if you've practiced it, you get to an interview of some sort and you're far more relaxed.
Yeah, that's so true, because I know what it feels like to be caught off guard by people. So if you're used to it, you're just literally able to slip into that mode, aren't you? And just like, oh yes, and regroup and present. So while you might be searching for the subject matter, at least you're able to do it though, physically and confidently, because you're used to that.
So it's like tennis people. They get good at tennis because they've stood there and practiced their serve over and over and over and over again.
Yes.
It's the same, and that's why, people say, oh, people are getting paid to speak. I mean, they're only there for 40 minutes. It's like, you're not paying them for the 40 minutes. You're paying them for the 4,000 hours they've spent practicing to get there.
So true. And the research and the subject matter, and all of that, hours and hours of standing up and practicing. And I think when you combine it with what you said about speaking happening all the time, like someone could go to work at the beginning of the week, couldn't they, and decide, right, this week I'm going to speak to my colleagues, I'm going to do this, and tick it off, and actually know at the end of the week, I've actually public spoken 3 times. And then you've got that confidence that you are doing it, you're doing it intentionally, you're thinking through the skills that you've read about and having a go. And that is the only way really that they're going to get through the nerves and be confident to speak. It's through doing it. Okay, so I asked Di, like I ask all my interviewees, for her 3 main takeaways. So the first one's really obvious. We've actually been talking about it, how she believes that anyone can speak confidently, which I think is wonderful. Can you tell us really quickly your own experience with that, Di? Because you weren't a natural speaker, were you? You actually learned how to speak confidently.
People that might have known me 30 years ago would have said, no, it's no surprise. But I went through a stage where I lost sort of my confidence and mojo. And this is very common from listening to your podcast in particular and your Facebook groups, Kat. I know that I'm not the only one. I got to a point where time was running out. I had to have children, and that suited me. I was a bit over my job in some aspects, and sure enough, we did that. And we happened to move to Singapore before I had my second child. And then I was just left in this sort of, I didn't know who I was, and I lost all my confidence. I couldn't even send out a CV because I didn't think I was worthy of it. Yeah. So I went along to Toastmasters and started back at the beginning of their course, even though I'd done a little tiny bit of it in New Zealand, and just started building up and my confidence over and over. And the public speaking cycle of writing a speech, delivering it, taking on feedback, getting up the next week, doing an impromptu speech, doing it, that just slowly built up. Actually, I remember who I am. I got my confidence back. So I also, and as I said, I help mentor other people through. So I do know that anyone can do it if they want to, if they've got the time, if they've got the inclination, obviously. But I'm sure that I could take, and more recently in New Zealand, I've coached, particularly I think of my women in trades that I work with, and they're tradie girls. Yeah. Yeah. They're not got university degrees or anything like that. This is not something they've ever aspired to be. And here they've got the scholarship. So we've taken them and they've delivered something and just been like going,
fantastic.
Wow, it was so amazing.
Yeah, that's so cool. That is really cool. I love it. Okay, now another one of Di's takeaway points was memorize your message, not your words. Now, you alluded to this earlier on. What do you mean by that?
So I'm always very clear to say this is not my great invention, but I got it off another professional speaker who got it. He said got it off the Crown Prince of Sweden, actually. Now,
Oh, okay.
the reason I'm putting it into context, because here's a person that does speeches maybe 2 or 3 a day some days as they're going on tours, and each little place is different. And he was saying, how do you remember what you need to say? He says, I memorize my message. I know exactly what I want to say in a general context, not the specific words.
Yeah.
Now, there are speeches, plenty of them, where people read them word for word.
Yeah.
But again, very well rehearsed. My idea is that for the most part, you only don't ever write a speech and try and memorize exactly every word for word, except the very opening sentences and the very ending.
Yes.
So you know exactly how you want to start and exactly how you want to end.
Yes, that's really true. I've actually done that when I've had to go to speaking engagements or go in and know that I was speaking in at the Professional Speakers Association. That's what I'd do. In the car, I'd just go through what I was going to say to open. The rest of it, I knew roughly what my points were, and I knew that I'd mention the point, I'd tell a story, I'd tie it back and move on to the next one. But yeah, the bits that I actually did ever practice or say anything was that intro and that outro.
Yeah.
Good key.
And
Key.
And that really links into that concept of write less, rehearse more.
Yes.
So write out your bullet points, short bullet points, not long bullet points. And then just be able to speak to that bullet point, and spend the time on rehearsing it. I've done it in the middle of a Toastmasters competition at the moment, and I have not written that speech down anywhere. It will come out every time. It'll come out differently.
Yeah.
Probably not recommended for a humorous speech competition
used to it though.
when you've got jokes that you need to deliver. But
yeah,
that's just my method now. So yeah, absolutely. Memorize your message, not your words. So don't feel hung up, because otherwise you'll stand there going, your eyes will move up to recall.
Yeah.
It's an automatic reaction. Well, no, what was I going to say? Oh, that's right. And then you come back and you deliver that line. Oh, that's
it makes
right.
you look less authoritative, doesn't it? Because
so
you've lost it, and then you're freaking because you've lost it, and everyone gets uncomfortable because they can see that you've lost it. Yeah. It doesn't build confidence at all in your presentation or in you as a person, does it? So.
And the other thing is that if you memorized your message, not your words, you've focused on just rehearsing those coming out in different ways, you've then got some muscle memory, and you can rely on that sort of muscle memory of, I know what I'm going to say now, this is the bit that follows. But you become more conversational. And today, for the vast majority of us, in the vast majority of situations, we want people to be conversational.
Yes.
Not to the point of dropping in expletives and having whole strings of ums and ahs and likes and you knows, but having it so that we sound like we do now, where we're having a conversation rather than reading it out like a lecture to someone.
Yes. And the problem with reading too is like you said, if you lose your spot, that's when it's obvious that you're freaking. But also holding notes, things like that, if you're in a workplace situation, that's going to show if you're nervous, because that piece of paper is going to show that little tremor that might be happening.
the old shaky piece of paper. Yeah,
exactly. So if you know what your main points are, you can have that piece of paper in front of you on the table if need be. You can look down and check it if you need be, but you will be much less reliant on props. It'll come from inside. And again, you'll look more confident and more authoritative. Now, Di, your third point was something that you've already touched on a few times. Rehearse. Elaboration, please.
Yeah, that was really the write less, rehearse more. Just that.
Yeah.
People put too much time on the writing
Yeah.
side of it. And really, your words make up a smaller proportion of your message than you give them credit for.
Yeah.
Actually better to rehearse your delivery, rehearse in the venue if it's an appropriate situation, and just rehearse in the meeting room. If you've got a presentation that you're doing in a meeting room, can you rehearse in the meeting room itself before the meeting, so that you actually have a bit of a dress rehearsal? And can you trial out delivering a line a couple of different ways and feel which one has more gravitas, or which has more emphasis, or which one feels like if you put a pause in the right place, will it really add emphasis?
That's good. That's a good call. In fact, that using the room is something that I know you and I would always check too. Little things like, if you're doing a presentation, getting your computer hooked up, making sure that everything's working, you've got batteries, things are connected up properly before you have to do your presentation in the workplace. Little things that people often overlook, but then they fall apart when all the tech falls apart.
I suppose so that's really that whole write less, rehearse more, rehearse, do all of that. I think I think my third really important point that I did want to make was more of a be kind to yourself. Stop comparing.
That's good.
Stop comparing yourself to someone else and going, oh well, I'm never going to be like that, or I haven't got there yet. Compare in a positive way, or find out what that person did to get where they are, so that you understand maybe the steps that your journey might be taking. I'd give this short little compact public speaking course as part of a thing called the Girl Boss Advantage program, which is for schoolgirls and girls going into university. It's a one-week course, school holidays. And I come in on the Monday to help them sort of set the scene of being able to introduce themselves, be a bit more confident. And I say to them right up front, you need to right now stop comparing yourself in a negative way. Like if I was comparing myself to the person that created Girl Boss, who's now at the ripe old age of 21, I'm not quite sure which
job, hasn't she?
like an amazing, she's met the Queen, she's got all these awards. I mean, if I looked at her, I would have just thought, what am I doing? What's the point? Right? We're all on our own journey. So stop comparing yourself in a negative way. Be kind to yourself. Take them as I want to be like that. I wonder how they did that, or inquiring, but not in a way of going, oh, there's no point. I'll never be that good.
To me, there's two things there. Number one is your voice is unique and it still matters. So while you may not be as polished or as practiced or as experienced as that other person, your voice still matters. And the other part of that is you may not simply have been taught yet. So what you're seeing up on stage there is someone who's been taught, who's practiced, who's rehearsed, who's had years of input, whereas you might be, like you just said, Di, starting on your journey and simply not taught yet. So I love that concept of not comparing, other than to learn, take it on board from learning, like how did they get from A to B, and then just absorbing it into your own journey. That's brilliant.
Because that jealousy, sometimes it's jealousy, as we know as speakers and trainers, it doesn't serve us.
Not at all.
It just lets go that little person inside that goes, oh, you're not good enough. Oh, you'll never be like that. Oh, forget it. You'll never get there. It's like that. Don't listen to that person.
No, not at all. That's a self-sabotage.
It is.
And it usually comes out of fear, doesn't it, Di? It's like, well, I'm too scared to do that, so I'll self-sabotage myself and not even try. Not even try.
And it goes a lot deeper. But no time for that psychoanalysis.
I love though that you've brought in so many different things, particularly for women. It's just too easy to hide behind things that are unknown or we don't feel confident doing and not break through. But this is a particular area, public speaking. It's up there for some reason of people being one of the things that people are most scared of doing. Yet, as Di said, if you reframe it, it's actually a normal part of life and it's something that you can get better at with practice. So Di, where can people find you? I mean, I'm going to have all the links underneath anyhow, but tell us again where they can find you.
My main Facebook page is www.speechmarks.co.nz. I'm on the Facebook, of course, under myself and my work page, SpeechMarks Coaching. LinkedIn, happy to link in with people. I'd say Instagram, but there's the odd thing on Instagram as well.
Yeah. Now, just for people overseas, because I have a lot of people listening overseas, you don't only do speech coaching in New Zealand, do you? You can do it as well online through Zoom for people overseas?
That's right, yes. So one of the other places you can find me is of looking at the She Says So side of things, and I do a virtual group as well for
fantastic.
that. So that's sort of that's there for people outside of our metropolitan area, but also obviously anywhere because it's virtual. So it follows the same framework of the She Says So in person, but we do it virtually. So I also do webinars as well this year. Of course, like many people, I've had to pivot and take some things online, and I've had great success with delivering keynotes that have become either short webinars or have been virtual keynotes.
Fantastic. So many things to look into. Di, you're an amazing lady. And I want to give Di a shout out. She's an amazing friend too. She's the one that's always there encouraging you, and wish you every good thing to happen with SpeechMarks and with what you're doing with the women you are building up and empowering. So everyone, make sure you please go follow her. Like I said, I'll pop all the links at the bottom. Thank you so much for being with us again today, Di, and we'll see you all in the next episode.
Thank you, Kat.